From the back roads and courthouse steps of small-town South Carolina to the late-night studio where the mics never sleep, this is where decisions, rumors, and real stories collide. You're tuned in to the Pot Stirrer Podcast with Jazzy Jeff. Real talk, local issues, no fluff.
Well, happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome into the palatial studios here of the Pot Stirrer Podcast. Jazzy Jeff here. Hope that you have had a great Wednesday, and let's just say that Wednesday has been filled with a ton of news here in Oconee County. If you're just now tuning in or just joining us, earlier this morning we got notification that Christy Hubbard, the county auditor, has decided to resign. She says that she is retiring, and she made the statement a little earlier that certain people and journalists, she wanted to let folks know that it wasn't anything to do with anything, but she is retiring, and August the 4th is the official day that she is leaving the office. So the Governor, Henry McMaster, will have to appoint a replacement for her coming up here by August the 4th, or in a couple of weeks. Well, last night we carried the Oconee County Council meeting, and to say that it was one for the books is an understatement. Last night, the conversation not only between the Corinth-Shiloh Fire Department, but the flock cameras. In a previous meeting with the Public Safety Committee of the Oconee County Council, Mike Crenshaw made some address concerning the flock cameras. Now, I want to let folks know that coming up next Tuesday, we will have Mike Crenshaw in the studio Tuesday, July the 28th at 7 p.m. It's an opportunity to hear from Sheriff Crenshaw on how things are going at the Sheriff's Department, and we will have an honest conversation, so make sure that you don't miss this. And one of the topics of conversation that we will have will be the flock cameras. And there's a lot of folks that have their opinions about those, and we will have all of that and more coming up for you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. here on The Pot Stirrer. Well, last night, meeting at Oconee County Council kind of changed maybe the course of the direction of what's going on. And, of course, this is no longer simply a fight anymore between the Corinth-Shiloh Fire District and the Corinth-Shiloh Volunteer Fire Department. County Council is now openly considering whether the special tax district should exist at all. So what Council did last night, they approved on a second reading, 4-0 with John Elliott abstaining, the amendment that would remove the scheduled November 2026 election of commissioners, instead allow the Oconee County Council to appoint all 5 commissioners to 2-year terms. The current commissioner's term would end on December 31st, 2026, but they could be reappointed. Now, the original ordinance, of course, and we'll get into that coming up here with a representative from the Corinth-Shiloh Volunteer Fire Organization, known as the 501c3. We'll talk about that. Of course, the 2024 referendum question, we'll talk about that, the original referendum, but also the ordinance County Council is adopting after the referendum specifically promised beginning elections in 2026. So we'll talk about that coming up. And we've got a whole lot of things to get to, so we're going to jump right into it. I want to welcome into the broadcast this evening a former classmate. We actually went to school together and graduated. You graduated in 93. And I graduated in 1994. Go Bobcats. Mm-hmm. And that is Danny Delmarco, who is the treasurer listed as a part of the 501c3, which is the Corinth-Shiloh Volunteer Fire Department. And Danny, it's good to have you with us here on the Pot Stirrer. I guess there's a lot to talk about. And what we're going to do here is take this step by step. And we're going to start at the beginning. How did we get here? And talk about the fire tax district. How did that all come about?
Sure. Over the years, I've been volunteering there for 34 years, since 1991. I've seen an amazing increase in call volume based on the growth of the community that's out there. So we as the volunteers realized and understood that we couldn't handle this amount of call volume. It was just, there was just no way to do that. So we had community meetings. The community was very receptive to us. This initially started back in 2020. Then COVID hit. We had a lot of different meetings with the HOAs and then kind of got put on pause. And realizing that this is something that is going to be needed for the community, and to make it a better fire district for everybody. You know, our goal at that time, and then as this has been approved, was to have a basic combination department with our volunteers that are on hand and with the taxpayer-funded paid members. You know, so this way it helps with getting the trucks out and all those kind of things. And the volunteers, of course, would come in as backup and to help as well as needed. Also a big help for call overlap. You know, we're one of the busier districts in the county. So we have about a 20-25% call overlap situation. For those who don't know what that means, that's going to be, we're on a call, say a lift assist or a car accident, and somebody has a heart attack or another lift assist or something else. So you have multiple calls at one time.
You also have to back up certain districts in the county too. If for example, back up Seneca, if they're on a call or something, you can back up the city of Seneca.
Correct.
You back up other districts within the county.
Correct. Yeah, we're definitely on a mutual aid agreement with those.
So, all right, we're going to go past COVID, and the conversations, I'm assuming, started in 2023 that we needed to explore the idea of creating this fire district. And I want to make sure, was the fire district that you had the vision, was it based after Kiwi's fire district, how it was set up originally?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the only tax district in the county, and we felt that was the best way to pursue this, was to, in a sense, mimic what Kiwi Key had. They provided a great service to the Kiwi Key members, and it has went outside the Kiwi Key district. I know there's some confusion where it was, I think, said last night that they're just in the confines of Kiwi Key, but they go out to other areas in that district.
They
So
back up Salem. They back up other areas within that area.
And I think part of their district is outside of that confine. So it goes into some of the waterfront subdivisions outside of that. So it's not just confined to that, and they're doing a great job.
And they do have a volunteer component to their fire tax district.
That's how it was when we were looking at that, for sure.
So we move on to 2024, and you guys go out and you start having the conversations and meetings with folks within the community. I'm assuming Bay Shore is one of the areas, Horsehead Point down there, plus folks down around the airport. You know, Corinth-Shiloh is kind of separated between 123. You have Corinth-Shiloh, and then you have the Shiloh community. You had town hall meetings, I would assume, where folks came into the fire department and folks asked the questions. What did you tell these folks when they came in?
Yeah, so initially going back to 2023, we met with county council about this. You know, we shared what the community was thinking, what our vision was. You know, met with Glenn Hart. I think Paul Kane was there back in those times. And I want to say we may have all messed with Don Mize too.
Don was in there. Don was involved there too for a little bit in 2023. Okay. Don was in there, yes.
So we did let them know where we were heading, or where we felt we were heading. They asked us to talk with emergency services, had that talk with emergency services, and then let them know where we were going. And then into, I want to say it was 23 or 20, going into 24, they did allow. We worked out an agreement to have 2 paid members from the county staff to help until, if this passed, you know, then we would
for the call volume to help to help the volunteers. So the county did provide the firefighters.
Correct. And you know, there's been some questions too, like if you already had 2 people from the county, why did you want to do your tax district? Well, in a perfect world, yes, that could have potentially worked, but they didn't take care of everything we needed to do. So, for instance, if we ran a call with them as we would all get dispatched, county would still do their report, and then we were required to still write our report. So unfortunately, it didn't alleviate any of the work that we had to do. You know, if we didn't finish all our reports, then, you know, there was other issues that would arise from that. So it wasn't like it was part of our department. And so that's where the disconnect was, and maybe a good learning experience to say, hey, look, if they could have taken more of the workload off the volunteers, we wouldn't have had to potentially look into doing this.
So you went out and you solicited within the district, and you went out and you got the signatures to put this on the ballot for the referendum.
Correct.
And from that point forward, there was a conversation about that it needed to be moved to the November general election, within the understanding that everybody would have the opportunity to come out and vote for it.
Yeah, that's kind of the feedback that county council went with, I think, with Mr. Durham. Our concern there was we wanted to get this started, and we wanted it in a special election just because of funding issues, because we didn't feel like it was right to ask for donations and then have a tax district passed. So we would have to use our savings to help fund the department up until tax revenue started coming in. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it did go to the November ballot, did pass, but that just gave us more funding constraints, going forward. But when we did get it passed, we were asked by county council to, hey, we need to get some commissioners. Can you get some some people together from the community? I know you've been talking with the community, and we're like, sure, we'll be glad to put some feelers out there and find out, who might be interested. At that point, they put in their applications. County council asked them to come to some county council meetings. They ended up coming to like 3, I believe it was. And then upon the appointment night, they went ahead and only approved one of the people that we had suggested and appointed other people.
Now, was this in December of 2024, or was this starting in January 2025? So this is when this started.
I think it finalized in the January of 2025.
Okay, so the fiscal new year, we're in 2025.
Correct.
Okay, then the commission is formed, and then the fire chief, they're starting. You started a search. Starting a search for the fire chief.
Yeah, so it was initially formed in that year, and of course they don't have any money because taxes don't get collected now until the end of that 2025 year.
So it would have been, so December 20 going into January. So we're talking January 2026 is actually the first amount of money that came through this fire district that collect the 1 year.
Correct. Yeah, so we had to wait on the tax bills. Now some people paid their tax bills early and some money started coming through, but that gave us the time to work together with that commission to try to come up with a plan in place, and everybody was thinking the same thing. Wait for the chief to get elected when we have money, and let's work through this together.
All right, so the chief hiring, how did that go?
Lindsay did a great job giving us a layout that had volunteer involvement, and we had some amazing candidates that came through. And it was definitely very transparent, I felt, and it came down to two candidates. There was online interview process. We had in-person interviews with everybody. There was people from the fire commission, people from the volunteers, and we had community members too. So I thought it went very well, and the volunteers did decide ultimately on one candidate there and talk with the commission about that. And
it's David Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And he came from Demorest, Georgia, I believe. He was a fire chief over there. And a side note, their fire department, they shut it down before he left, and he came over here and took this job. So just wanted to mention that. Okay. So the fire chief has been hired. And now we move forward to, let's just say, later 2026 here. Where did things start to go wrong?
I think the biggest disconnect, unfortunately, was what we were seeing in chiefs' hiring practices. Unfortunately, we didn't agree with that. And there was a bunch of volunteers, I believe it was the February meeting, if not March, it was February, I believe, that voiced their concerns and spoke out against what we were seeing from that chief. Whilst he was there, I think he came in December and then officially started in January. It was more of a closed door process. His door was always closed. People from the community would come in, door was closed, but you just always would have to knock and whatnot. It was just big lack of communication. There was just zero communication with him, and it felt like we were cut off, if you will. And then as soon as we had that meeting, unfortunately, the fire commission and of course the chief now are against a good bit of the members that voiced their opposition of the way things were being done.
So we go into this situation. This is where everything really starts to take a turn. Again, about legal, I know that there was talking about legal representation. When did you have to consult an attorney?
It's been a few months back. I don't remember the exact date, but we were trying to get things worked out. We knew they had went and had an attorney and felt it was in the best interest of the organization that we, try to figure out a way to where we could consolidate and work together. I mean, the whole goal is, or our goal was to help the citizens. I mean, that's the bottom line, is the taxpayer. And what our vision was, again, paid members and the volunteers. And these volunteers, dedicated volunteers, were basically asked to apply to this tax district that we were already members of Oconee County Emergency Services. So a lot of confusions there, but they said, no, this is the way it goes. A lot of people felt they didn't need to, and then several people that applied got rejected. So
So these are people that were already a part of the 501c3 that were volunteers.
Correct.
They reapplied and they got rejected.
Yeah, very poor communication. Like, there was members that even got approved that would come to us and ask, hey, did we get approved? I haven't heard anything. It's been a month. It's been this long. And I'm like, well, you need to talk with Chief Dave. And so they basically had to go back and even ask, hey, am I even on your fire department? So it was a shame.
Is this a communication issue?
I think a huge communication issue. And we've voiced that from the beginning, and that's where a lot of the disconnect started. In that February meeting, we said there's such a lack of communication. They even said, between the fire commission and the chief, at a certain point they're not going to let us run calls, and he said he would come out and let us know. The only way we knew we weren't going to be running calls is they took away our access to active and everything else. Never even communicated to us that, hey, look, you're no longer running emergency calls, even though in theory we're a member of emergency services.
So again, last night in the conversations at county council meeting, I think this was brought up. You brought this up. Mm-hmm. Who owns the building?
All right. So the building's on Clemson University land. It initially, before my time there, I started in 91. They built that building, I believe, in the 80s, if I'm thinking correctly, 70s.
I want to say it was built under 85 or 86. Something it was late 80s, and I can tell you who was a part of that at one time was Dallas Hardin.
Yeah. Oh,
Dallas was a part of all of that with the original, I want to think, Jim McMillan.
Yeah, era. And so, they built that, I'm assuming, on the help of the community and donations that were out there. We did a upfit of the station and made it so where we could have sleeping quarters, seeing that we needed this for the future. We needed members to stay down there. And at that point, of course, that's where we added the loan on the building, because we had to upfit it to allow for the growth of the community that was there on that side. Okay,
so we got the building. You're having to pay a mortgage on the building, right?
Correct. So, yeah, we initially, in talks with Clemson University, we talked with them about doing it, because our lease was a lease in perpetuity. Basically, that means it's never going to end, or 99-year lease, however you want to look at it, which was great for us and the organization. Clemson's new way of doing things, they give you a 10-year lease and then give you some renewal options. So I was a little concerned about that, because what if something happens and changes? But, that was the direction that we needed to go based on Clemson's new way of doing things. And so we were in negotiations of doing a joint lease, especially with us, having that. And there was talks about the tax district getting a loan and paying it off as soon as they signed the lease. They said they were going to go through their bank, and unfortunately that's not happened. And in a sense, they signed the lease with the university behind what we said. The communication through our attorney with Clemson University was they're working on this, and it was not going to be signed, and then it was signed.
Let me go back to about the volunteers. Mm-hmm. So in certain things, when a organization transitions into another organization, mm-hmm. the new organization normally would send out an email. Mm-hmm. Was an email ever sent out that you would have to reapply?
Not email. The only thing that came out, that email was very lacking. We didn't get any email communication from him, even on trainings.
Nothing that would said, though, that you would have to reapply to be a part of the volunteer fire department or the new organization. Yeah.
Not that I recall on that. I know we had it in meetings that it was brought up. They were going to make a handbook. We felt we should be part of that creation, and say, hey, look, this is what we all think we need to do. They came out, approved the handbook, and were supposed to give it to us after the meeting, and we never even got a copy of the handbook. So we didn't even know what their rules and regulations were after they voted on getting it approved. And again, through the meetings that we had, our volunteer organization meetings, that's where we got the communication from, if any, would be from that.
Equipment-wise, currently right now, what does the 501c3 equipment? Do you own a fire truck?
Yeah, we own a couple fire trucks, several vehicles that are there, and pretty much, of course, everything that was in the station, naturally. The old fire gear that was, getting older. TVs. I mean, you name it, everything was owned. And, we were talking initially with this commission that, they were in the agreement of, hey, we're going to make the building payment. We expect y'all to, for $1, we'll just kind of lease everything and do that. And it's kind of just not went in the correct direction there. And then there was talk about, like I said, they were going to go ahead and pay the loan off. So there was a lot of promises and actions and potentially on both sides. I'm not saying they're all wrong, and I'm not saying, we're all wrong, but, I think it could be on both sides. But it's still like we're basically in a situation where they're occupying a building that we're paying a mortgage payment on, and that's not right. I mean, actually, they had it set up on an auto draft, and they had made 2 payments and had the payments recalled. I think it was 60 days later. I have the documentation on that, which I just don't think, especially when it's something that's in your budget, and that's why we were pushing the transparency thing, that basically seems to get a little blown out of proportion there. But I mean, this or fire commission should be transparent. You should be able to go down to the station and look at the prior 6 months meeting minutes. You should be able to look at the documentation with those meeting minutes, and that's not been allowed. We went down there the first time and they didn't have them, and so it's just been a little challenge. And I think they definitely need to be more transparent with the public on those things.
I'm going to ask this question, and this may be one that you don't want to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. There has been some conversation and topic about monies. What, how, and how much money do you presently hold currently? Is any of it involving county money?
County money, the only thing that we, again, my understanding, we don't have any county money left. It's all been depleted as far as from the county reimbursement fund that we would have. We do have a donation account with donation money that's still in there, of course, and we still have the I&I money, which is insurance and inspection money, that we were in negotiation with our attorney and their attorney about getting that transferred over, and that's, unfortunately, those communications have seemed to somewhat stop.
So you both have attorneys, the volunteer and also the district itself, the incorporation. And all of this now has gone to between the attorneys. So basically you can say it's in litigation, one and the other. And what you're telling me is here that there's not a lot of things that's coming back from the incorporation. That the conversations has stopped.
Yeah, I mean, basically it's been pushed to the attorneys, and then we sent basically a consolidation plan, and then we've been told that from the chief Dave that there's never been a consolidation plan. It's just what we want. And
do you have any of this in writing? I have to ask that.
Yeah, that's in emails. We have emails.
So you have email, but do you have an official document that was drawn up and was signed by the volunteers to the new district?
We have from the attorney that was sent, we have emails back and forth that was sent, but the latest communication is going to be through the attorneys, of course. And that's kind of unfortunately where it's at.
So we have what I like to call a stalemate right now between the district and the volunteer organization. And I'm going to ask this, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and I don't want you to think anything different. However, once all of this was said and done and the district was approved, the referendum passed, should there not have been an immediate plan to go forth to transfer everything that should have been done within the first 6 months and had everything taken care of, so that it seems like this has been drawn out for too long? We're going on a 2-year time frame now, because November will be the 2 years since the referendum was approved by the voters of the Corinth-Shiloh district. Does it not seem like that this all of this should have been taken care of months and months prior?
Well, I mean, I think that looking back on it, that would have been probably something that should have been worked on together. I think the initial concerns with the organization, the volunteer organization, is, that we have assets and things and bylaws to go by, so we can't just give things to the other side. And I think that was their expectation in the beginning, just give us everything. And our concerns were, well, wait a minute, we want to make sure the proper rules and things are being followed. So definitely could see that. But based on how this has been handled so far and the way we see that they're spending money, I mean, it just doesn't make sense that we would do that, because it would risk, unfortunately risk things for the community.
And are there currently any kind of negotiations about turning this all over and closing this chapter?
Closing
everything, the 501c3,
right, just like closing it out,
would be closed out.
Yep. There is, I mean, unfortunately, with all the stress that's involved in doing this, because we're volunteers, there's only so much we could do and take. And definitely there are some members saying, you know what, we should just, according to the bylaws, basically, if we were to close it out, we'd have to sell everything off. And
now this is the bylaws of the Volunteer of Corinth-Shiloh that, you're going to have incorporated bylaws dating back to 1963.
Correct. Yep. The bylaws from the organization. So,
and the bylaws say that in order to close the 501c3, you have to sell off the assets.
Yeah, supposed to sell the assets. And we don't feel, we're still, again, active organization. We're meeting, we're not, and the confusion of the fact that we're saying we're the fire department, we're not saying that. The tax district's there, they're running calls. What we're saying is the members that we had should have been allowed to join that organization, because it hurts the community. So why wouldn't you want to take in qualified people? And I think if that part of this would have been agreed to, I think I don't want to say everybody would be happy, but it would have made everybody happy, like everybody's has a say to the table or is being part of this new quote unquote fire department that's there.
So let's say that tomorrow there's a phone call from their side. And their side says, quote, well, we want to come to the table and sit down and get this all worked out. What do you think it's going to take from your side, from the 501c3, to get this worked out?
Yeah.
What has to happen in order for it to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, would love to, because I think that's the greatest thing for the community to do that. And we talked with the commissioners even before all this kind of blew up, and it's just like, how can we make this work? And it was a challenge, because we're just like, I think part of the issue that may have happened is there should have probably been an attorney involved from the beginning to set in the course of how this needs to transition. But going forward, is there a way of working it? I mean, I think there's always a way. I'm a positive person, and I think that would definitely be an opportunity there. It's just how, and I would hope, even everybody's egos and bad blood, if we need to do what's best for the community. We don't need to just do what's best for our own self, in a sense. So I know there's going to be people mad at me. I'm going to be mad at other people. But again, I would still want to do what's right for the community. And I'm hopeful maybe something like that could happen.
There was a lot of folks, people talked last night at the county council meeting. There were some folks that feel like they were snookered. I feel like that's the word of the day for some reason. They were snookered. Far as money, you're saying now in the 501c3 that all of the county funds that you got, was it quarterly checks from the county?
There was quarterly checks from the county. It was like $15,000 a quarter.
Okay.
And they're not, I mean, it's probably a very low balance. I mean, it's not much left, if anything, in there. So I mean, we don't have thousands of dollars in county money, or tens of thousands of dollars in county money. So it's very minimal.
What about volunteer money?
Yeah, we do have volunteer money. That our agreement with the bank is we have to have 2 years worth of payments set aside, is what we made as an agreement for
the mortgage that you have payment, on the mortgage payment.
In case. So a lot of people look at that and they don't understand.
But if you can get everything addressed and you can get these concerns, then you're willing to give this over and start on a level footing But what you're asking for is a little say in the fire department.
Yeah, and
Does that clear up the whole issue?
I think it does. And you know what's interesting, and I've kind of compared it. It's like a divorce. You know, if someone gets divorced, the wife could say, "Give me everything," or the husband could say, "Give me everything." But that's not how it works. But
Then
in
you
this,
go to mediation.
Mediation.
Have y'all
And
been to mediation?
We're scheduled for mediation, and we're going to be setting a date in September. So mediation is an option.
Okay.
But you know, it's basically the way the volunteers have taken it is, hey, give us everything, and then you don't get a say. You know, and that doesn't feel right. And then we're concerned about the way things are transpiring. So, and we're more concerned about how this is going to take place for the community on that side. So, but yes, I think there definitely could be, you know, a situation. Now we've talked with, you know, the biggest concern that we've seen is we have Shiloh Road property where, again, our main station is Old Clemson Highway.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. There is a substation down below the the airport.
That's correct. And we have been staunch proponents on upfitting that. And we talked with the fire commission about that. You know, we had some proposals on doing it, and they didn't. And I let them know, I mean, this is a tax district. It's very important that they get the same level of service on that side that they are on the other side. You know, there shouldn't be any difference there.
Well, was that not built for the airport?
No.
Well, why was that built? Why was that substation built down there?
Initially, because of the distance from the fire department, you have to be so close, and it's an ISO thing. But it's very helpful to have that. So,
well, it's also in the back door of Clemson University too.
Correct. And so again, we saw the need again as the community was growing. We purchased the land and then sold off a piece of the land to help us, you know, naturally get to where we are today.
So you're going to enter mediation. Did you say September, or is it August the 4th?
August the 4th, I think, is the next council
Okay.
meeting.
Would you, but let me ask this. You're going to, but you've got a mediation that's scheduled in September.
We're working on the dates right now.
Okay.
Yep. So trying to get a date that's agreeable for everybody.
So the current organization of the district, you have a chief. How many captains?
Of the tax district?
Of the tax district.
So they're set up the way I understand it is going to be the chief, one captain, and then lieutenants.
Okay. And then are they going to be on a 24-hour rotating shift?
So they are on a somewhat controversial 4896 setup. So they stay for 48 hours and then they leave.
And is it fully staffed currently?
Yes. From my understanding, yes. I think they're at fully staffed.
And also, to the building on Shiloh Road, that is a county building.
So we're in what we call a lease with the county.
Okay.
So what we did is we owned the property. The county went ahead and we worked together before this tax district and stuff. So the building was built, and then we both are legal term, where basically we could use it and they could use it kind of thing to benefit the community from the fire side.
Does it have any equipment in it now?
Yeah, there's trucks in it.
There is trucks in it. Is that county trucks?
It depending on how they shifted the vehicles. I mean, it could be our trucks to county trucks that are, you know, down there.
So does the fire district have any trucks of their own?
The tax, you know, the fire
The tax district. Does the tax district have any trucks of their own?
I guess it's so we do have what you would say county trucks. So I would assume that would be, you know, their trucks. If it, you know, I mean, that would be something to really ask emergency services, I guess, on that. So we do have like a ladder truck that the county provided graciously.
So I would assume that the county, if they're county equipment, I would assume that the county would allow.
Yeah, I would.
But your equipment is licensed by you as the 501c3.
That's correct. Yeah.
So that brings up another different situation concerning
Especially legalities, liability
and
was our
liabilities.
thing. You know, it's like, hey, look, who has the insurance? What happens if something goes wrong with it? You know, things of that nature. So it's just a lot of complications that need to get figured out.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and ask this next question. You're not actively taking donations.
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I want to clarify that because that has been something that popped up. That there was something that I seen about taking that you all were taking donations, but I want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, I mean,
nobody is taking to your knowledge. No one's taking any donations.
You know, I mean, as far as donations, I mean, people can still donate to the organization. I mean, we're not soliciting donations or anything like that. There has been people that have payroll donations that have come out over their thing, but we're not soliciting by any means of donations.
Well, now I'm going to get to the big questions. I think that what we've talked about gets a little bit in depth here, and it sets the tone for this next thing. So last night, after all the public speakers, and I heard from a wide range, I heard from Bill Box, and I kind of did feel a little bit for is it Tim
Murphy?
Tim Murphy. I do remember the moment that when he was hit on, it was 123. He was hit. Clemson Highway. When he was in that accident, when he was hit, and had to be airlifted to Greenville. That was what, 10, 15 years ago. I thought, at one time he was not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
I mean, he was really, he took a while to go through rehabilitation.
Oh,
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember when it happened.
Very challenging.
So would you be in favor now, knowing what you know, to just go ahead and let's cease to get rid of this tax district and do away with it?
Yeah, I mean, that was brought up last night, and knowing what we know now, and seeing how things have transpired, I hate to say it, but yeah, I would say it would probably be a good idea if emergency services and if the volunteers still somehow existed, they can make it easier on the volunteers. So it's not like, emergency services fills out a fire report and the volunteers fill out a fire report. Figuring out a way to coexist together, and I think that would be very important.
If you went back and you got rid of this, there's a couple of things that would happen. Number one, I believe, in listening to what Matt Durham said last night, that he would have been willing to up it to a third firefighter if the county were to take it back over. But what happens to all this tax money that we've collected if we do away with it?
Yeah,
that's going to be another. There's a whole lot of legalities here that's going to have to be answered. But what you're saying to me is that you, given right now, knowing what happens, you would be of the opinion to do away with the tax district and let the county take it back over, but you want to be able to have the volunteers and work with the county.
I would hope they would do that because, again, the biggest challenge in this area is the number of calls and the call overlap. So, no matter how many people you put there, it's never going to be enough, no matter which station, right? We'd love to have 10 people there, right? But, if they put 2 people there or 3 and they're all out on one call and then another emergency call comes in, you want to have that capability of people to back up, right? So I think it would be helpful for the county, but if their vision is to just take it over and not do that, I mean, whatever's best for the citizens, what I would say.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you believe that this would be better for the citizens? Because it seems like to me we could eliminate a lot of this back and forth, and we could put the focus back on, because I believe that the county at some point is going to have to take a bigger look at fire service throughout the county. And here's why I say that. Oconee County has grown. This is not your back Oconee Rural Fire Control. We all remember the days of Oconee Rural Fire Control. We've grown by leaps and bounds past that because in your area alone, you have a shopping center, you have student housing, you have the airport, you have development after development going up. So in that one area, you have got the sprawl that's coming across from Clemson University.
Correct, yeah. And then could you imagine even I know the Neary project, that would have been more houses, I think, than the city of Seneca.
Well, it would have created a number. It would be the biggest city in Oconee County. It would surpass the city of Seneca. If you put 5,000 homes and you do it 2 times, you're looking at 10,000 population just within that little small circle. It's a whole new city.
It's a whole new,
Neary, South Carolina will have even a bigger zip code than it has now.
Right. And then that's the problem with growth, right? I mean, so you can't do that and then just be in the same situation. You have to adapt, somehow. And it's a challenge. I don't envy emergency services because it's a huge issue for us because we're growing so fast. And I mean,
this goes on to another conversation. This is what I've said all along for the last 2.5 to 3 years. We're having this telling conversation, unfortunately, because of a situation is that growth has created an issue with emergency services. It's creating an issue with law enforcement. It's creating an issue with our hospitals.
Correct.
It is continually creating an issue. And again, at the end of the day, somebody's got to pay for it.
Yeah.
So the taxpayers right now, they approve this. They wanted this done because they want to feel protected. But yet again, some of them last night felt they were snookered. And again, you've got this over here, you've got this over here. And at the end of the day, Danny, it's got to be about the people.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure, I mean, the people there are protected. You know, whether I'm for or against what they're doing in a tax district, they have a hired people that are there. So I don't want them to be alarmed right now by any means, you know, that there's nobody responding to calls, and that's definitely not the case. So the tax district paid staff is there. A certain number of volunteers are there helping them. So just want to ease that concern with the community.
I have a question that's been asked online. How many calls did the volunteers run without the county? Before the county came involved, when you were just the volunteer, do you have a call number?
I would say, I mean, it's tough. So I think last year we pushed up close
800?
to 1,000.
About 800
and I would
to
say
1,000?
we're probably, with the county being there, but before that, it was somewhere in that probably 700-800 range. Yep.
Jessica's checked in. I want to ask this question here. We're talking about the mortgage and the funds. She's saying the funds are being used to pay the mortgage on the building that the tax district has refused to pay so far.
Correct. So yeah,
Okay.
the funds we have, the
Right.
donation funds, yes, are paying
For the mortgage.
for the mortgage that they're in. Yes, the building that they're in.
So August the 4th is the next county council meeting, and I believe there'll be the third reading. I think they're going to post it. It's going to take about 90 days. In conversations I've had today, there are some things that think that they can enact an ordinance to do away with it, and then other people are saying that it would have to go back to a referendum. Because the referendum is what put it into place. The council wrote the ordinance, but it would take a referendum. There's a lot of people that doesn't, and again, the legal folks and the county attorney is going to get involved in this. I don't know if this has ever been done.
Yeah.
You know, you created a fire district, and now the potential of taking the fire district away. There's going to be a lot of legalities, but do you plan to be back up there for this August 4th again?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still important because right now this is what exists, you know, and so there was a lot of questions about the ordinance, the current ordinance, so I printed it off, you know, and if you heard Mr. Smith's comments and even Mr. Durham's comments, he's like, no, it's voted for by the community. But that wasn't the case of what was in that ordinance that they had. And I don't mean any disrespect to them, but they were just telling the people, no, they would vote if they needed an increase in millage, and it just wasn't in there. Now, I give them respect because Mr. Durham at the end, I believe, made a motion to go ahead and put that verbiage in there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just concerned me that they were saying it was in there, and then it wasn't, and then they made I think they made a change to put that there, because I think that's very important, because we had said about the 25 meals.
Let me ask another question. There was another problem about the taxes, wanting to raise the mills. Explain that.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was just going over. Is so it's in the ordinance as far as, let me see if I look at my papers.
It was capped, and then they want to be able to go above the mills.
Yeah, the not to exceed tax rate. And that's what concerned us, because if you're just appointing people versus voters in there, that's where the way it was stated, the fire commission could go to county council and say, here's our budget, we need more mills. And then county council would have the ultimate authority to do that. And that's where I think the confusion came out in that meeting last night, was Mr. Smith had said, no, it would be a referendum he voted on, but it did not say that in the ordinance. And that's what I was trying to point out. And that's why I appreciate county council for making the amendment that they said was in there, I guess, if you will. So they were saying it was there, but I think we've at least covered that basis for the community about they would have to vote in a referendum to raise the millage. The thing that we still, of course, don't like is just not having the ability to vote in for the people that are making decisions with the tax money. I think this is very important to have representation of the people that want to be there. And I know we're in a situation where we're negotiating, there's things going back and forth, but there's governments all around the United States, and I'm sure we could say, oh no, we can't have an election because this is happening or that's happening. So they could be brought up to speed rather quickly, and then we still have a 6-month time frame to get this hopefully figured out. So I still think it's very fair to have an election of the people if this is going to carry forward.
So my understanding, the ways too that this could potentially work, and another potential solution amongst all this, we were talking about doing staggered terms here. So, for example, in 2026, you would vote for 2 on the district, on the fire commission, and then in the following year, you would vote for 3. Or when the next election comes up in election cycles.
Yeah, so the way that the current ordinance was is it would be a full vote for all 5.
All 5.
And then the top 3 vote getters would get a 4-year term, the way I understood it. And then the bottom 2 would get a 2-year term. And then it would stagger.
It would start staggering just like we do with
years.
county council elections now.
Correct.
So every 2 years, you know that you're going to have an election. Like, for example, in November, you've got District 3, which is Don Mize, the current incumbent that's running. And you've got Bill Bull, who is running against the Democratic challenger up here in D1. So then 2 years down the road, you're going to have 3 seats up. So again, do you believe if an agreement could be signed within the next 30 days that this could prevent everything?
An agreement between the tax district and the organization?
That this all could be settled, and...
I'm hopeful, and I think, yes, that could be definitely the case, and I think whatever we could do to make it better and respond to those citizens, because I've always been about that, and I think it's so important. I'm not the most highly qualified individual, but you know what? I've trained how to do CPR and all the, the other stuff, so being able to help in a situation, it shouldn't matter. I think your heart matters, and I've always been a proponent of I'd rather have more than less. So it shouldn't. What does it hurt to have me on your roster if I could provide CPR to somebody or medical assistance or whatever that is?
You've been a volunteer since 1991. I remember when you joined the fire department.
I was a junior, which they're one of the programs they're doing. They're starting an Explorer program, which I think is phenomenal, because that is what started me. I started back in New York, but then came down here, and that was the only department that had a junior program. So I will give them credit on that.
Well, and also too, the Hamilton Career Center is going to they're going to offer firefighting again.
Oh, good.
There's so much, and again, there's so much going on in this world that it's great to have these things for this younger generation, because right now these kids are running rampant. We know that.
Yeah.
There's just so much going on. It's a lot different than it was when we were growing up.
Oh, 100%.
So, again, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to wrap this thing up. This has been very enlightening, and I wanted to try to give you all the opportunity and to have just an honest conversation and honest answer. I'm going to offer the same to the district, some of the commissioners. I'm going to offer the same thing to come up and have this conversation.
Sure.
And hopefully, by creating this conversation, if there's one thing that this show I wanted it to do, is hopefully we can find a common ground moving forward to, again, it's about the people. I know a lot of y'all. From my days in the rescue squad, I know the organizations. I know that we had some great firefighters come through Corinth-Shiloh. I mentioned one, Dallas Harden, was well known in this county. He was a diver, was part of the first dive team that we had in Oconee County with him and Bob Kinder. And it's different now. It really is. A lot of these volunteers that gave up their time and their family, either they're no longer with us or they're getting up in age, and again, it's a family, and I hate to see the family torn apart. And it seems like that all of this has happened, and we've got to find some common ground for the citizens. The citizens is one I don't want to see paying the price. I want to make sure that if there is a medical emergency or a fire, that fire department's there. Also, we got to understand too that Oconee County's growing, and if we're not prepared. Again, at some point in my lifetime, that nearing, it's happening. And I don't see anything that we can do to stop it. And that's 5,000 more people.
Yeah, and they're going to need emergency service.
They're going to need
police,
emergency
fire,
service.
hospital.
And 3 firefighters ain't going to get it for 5,000 people. That is just a whole new city that comes up out of the ground.
Yeah. I mean, how many? Yeah, you almost look at what is the city of Seneca's staff. So you're taking that, and then just for it's just unbelievable.
And then exactly. And then you got again the days of the rural firefighters. I hate to say it, and some of them are still here, and they still serve a purpose. Volunteers serve a purpose, but firefighters such as Corinth-Shiloh, City of Seneca, the larger ones, Westminster, Walhalla, Seneca particularly, is seeing so much growth. Mm-hmm. It's the economic driver of Oconee County, and that corner that y'all are on down there now, it's exploded with that shopping center and all of the student housing. Because I try to tell folks this: Clemson can only grow one way. Clemson can only grow towards Oconee County. They can't grow on the other side. They've got blocks right there, Pendleton and Central. It's maxed out.
That's right.
But you know something? They own a lot of property on the Oconee side that they can come across the bridge, and that's what they've done.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I do appreciate you taking the opportunity to come up here and explain, and I want to give you all a fair shot of the 501c3 to have this conversation.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, we're hopeful. We're trying to do what's right for the community. I know there's been stuff on both sides, but anything we do to make this work, would be glad to talk about it.
Okay. Well, again, as I want to let you mention that I'm giving the district their opportunity to come on. I'm going to ask them the same questions, and again, try to find some common ground. And if we can find common ground, then we can move forward. And again, it's all for the people that live in that district. Danny, I appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you very much. All right. Danny Delmarco has joined us, who is the treasurer for the 501c3. I want to remind everybody it's your opportunity Tuesday, July the 28th, to talk. We'll have a conversation with Mike Crenshaw here on the Pod Stirrer podcast. It's an opportunity to ask your questions about flock cameras, because guess what, my friends? That is the next topic coming up for Tuesday. Also, looking at our calendar, August the 11th, we will have another Seneca City Council meeting on the 11th, and that will be for the final vote for Seneca Light and Water budget on Tuesday, August the 11th, and we'll keep you up to date there. So those are some of the things coming up. But Mike Crenshaw will be joining us here on the Pod Stirrer podcast, and that will be coming up next Tuesday at 7 p.m. For Danny, for everybody, thank you so much for joining us here this evening on the Pod Stirrer podcast right here on JazzyJeffPodStirrer.com, and I will see you Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Have a great evening, everybody.
From the back roads and courthouse steps of small-town South Carolina to the late-night studio where the mics never sleep, this is where decisions, rumors, and real stories collide. You're tuned in to the Pod Stirrer podcast with Jazzy Jeff. Real talk, local issues, no fluff.